But first, we need to understand the most valuable commodity in aviation, and it's not the planes themselves. Airport slots can cost up to $100 million for a single pair of arrival and departure slots at premium airports like London Heathrow. These aren't just scheduling preferences, they're legal permissions to use runway space at specific times. And they operate under a brutal use-it-or-lose-it rule requiring airlines to operate at least 80% of their allocated slots to retain them. Think of slots like digital real estate in the most expensive neighborhoods on Earth. A single morning slot at Heathrow sold for $75 million in 2016, making it more valuable per square foot than Manhattan penthouses. Airlines treat these slots like crown jewels, because losing them means losing access to the world's most profitable routes forever. The slot system was designed to manage congestion, but it's created a secondary market where timing is literally worth more than the aircraft themselves. This economic reality drives decisions that seem completely insane to passengers. So when airlines face the choice between losing a $100 million slot or flying an empty plane, guess what they choose every time? Over 100,000 ghost flights flew over European skies during a recent winter season, burning fuel and generating emissions equivalent to the yearly emissions of more than 1.4 million cars. British Airways operates a London Heathrow to Cardiff route that leaves 6 days a week with a crew but with no passengers on board. Not because anyone wants to fly to Cardiff, but because the slot was originally allocated for flights to Uzbekistan. When geopolitical situations made that route impossible, British Airways faced a choice: surrender a Heathrow slot worth tens of millions, or fly to Cardiff instead. The math was simple. Operating empty flights for years costs less than buying back that slot later. These ghost flights represent airline accounting at its most ruthless, where protecting future access trumps immediate losses. Airlines would rather burn money on fuel than lose their competitive positioning at premium airports. Beyond slot protection, airlines constantly play a global chess game, moving aircraft around the world for reasons passengers never see. Airlines regularly send an empty plane to go pick up all the passengers when aircraft break down at non-hub airports, and reposition planes for scheduled maintenance at specialized facilities that might be thousands of miles away. Imagine a United plane breaks down in Denver while a fully booked flight waits in Houston. Rather than cancel the Houston flight and disappoint 300 passengers, United will fly an empty aircraft from Chicago to Houston, then fly the Houston passengers to their destination. The empty positioning flight loses money, but the alternative, canceling a sold-out flight, damages the airline's reputation and costs even more in passenger compensation. Aircraft also need specialized maintenance that only happens at certain facilities. American Airlines flies planes empty to its massive maintenance base in Tulsa, Oklahoma, while British Airways uses Cardiff for heavy maintenance. These operational realities create a constant stream of empty flights that passengers never see but are essential for keeping the system running. Then there are the flights that exist purely for regulatory compliance and safety, empty planes flying for reasons that have nothing to do with passengers. Airlines operate empty flights for pilot training purposes and to meet requirements for how often pilots need to fly to keep their certifications current. During the early COVID pandemic, when passenger demand disappeared overnight, airlines continued flying empty planes just to keep their pilots legally qualified to fly. Maintenance test flights also require aircraft to operate without passengers to prove the plane's airworthiness after a critical component has been worked on. If an airline replaces a critical navigation system, they must test fly the aircraft through specific maneuvers before passengers can board. These proving flights can last hours and cross multiple time zones, all with just the minimum required crew aboard. Safety regulations don't care about profitability. They mandate these flights regardless of passenger demand. Airlines would rather fly empty than risk losing pilot certifications or aircraft airworthiness certificates that would ground their entire fleet. But here's where airline economics get really counterintuitive. Sometimes flying half-empty actually maximizes profit. Airlines don't just consider individual flights in isolation. As one industry expert explains, the plane might be scheduled to fly back to New York from Atlanta afterwards, and that flight might be completely full. Canceling the empty Atlanta-bound flight means canceling the profitable return flight too, since the aircraft wouldn't be positioned correctly. Airlines also use revenue management psychology. They actually raise prices on half-empty flights to recoup some of the lost revenue from those unused seats. This seems backwards until you understand passenger behavior. People booking last-minute flights often have urgent business needs and will pay premium prices. A half-empty business flight might generate more profit than a full leisure flight, because those few passengers are paying top dollar for flexibility. Airlines have calculated that it's more profitable to fly 50 passengers at $800 each than 200 passengers at $150 each, even though the costs are nearly identical. To understand how dramatic this shift has been, we need to look at how flying used to work just a few decades ago. In the 1970s, the typical flight was just 49% full, compared to today's 83% full, meaning half-empty flights used to be completely normal. Before deregulation, airlines were essentially government-regulated utilities that competed only on service quality, not price. Flying was luxurious but expensive, with ticket prices dropping from $600 in 1979 to $385 currently, when adjusted for inflation. The old system prioritized passenger comfort over efficiency. Airlines scheduled frequent flights so travelers could show up at airports without reservations and expect to find available seats. This convenience came at enormous environmental and economic costs, but passengers loved the flexibility. Modern revenue management systems use complex algorithms to predict demand and price tickets dynamically, squeezing every possible dollar from each seat. Today's packed flights are the result of ruthless optimization that makes flying cheaper but less comfortable than the empty flights of previous generations. Airlines also operate empty flights for exclusive clients who pay premium prices for services the public never sees. Airlines frequently fly empty to get the planes in position to transport sports teams, celebrities, or corporate charters who pay massive fees for private use of commercial aircraft. These positioning flights look wasteful but enable highly profitable charter operations that can earn more in one weekend than a month of regular passenger service. Government and diplomatic flights operate on separate systems entirely, with aircraft positioning globally for presidential visits, military operations, or emergency evacuations. Airlines maintain these capabilities because government contracts provide stability during economic downturns and access to routes that regular passengers can't use. A single government charter contract can justify dozens of positioning flights throughout the year. The public sees empty planes, but misses the bigger economic picture. These flights support the premium services that subsidize cheaper tickets for everyone else. The environmental cost of this system is staggering, and it's forcing the industry to reconsider how the slot system works. Empty flights waste fuel and create 20,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions per day, according to recent calculations, leading to calls for reform of the use it or lose it rules that force airlines to operate unprofitable flights. Environmental groups have successfully pressured European regulators to temporarily relax slot requirements during crises, proving that alternatives exist. Some airports are experimenting with slot trading systems that allow airlines to sell unused capacity rather than operating empty flights, while others propose pricing slots based on environmental impact rather than just time of day. The industry faces increasing pressure to balance operational efficiency with climate goals, potentially revolutionizing how airports manage capacity. Future reforms might eliminate ghost flights entirely by allowing more flexible slot management, but airlines are fighting these changes because they threaten the competitive advantages built into the current system. The next decade will determine whether environmental concerns can overcome the powerful economics that make empty flights profitable. Have you ever been on one of these nearly empty flights? Drop a comment about your experience. I love hearing passenger stories from the world's most exclusive accidental charter flights. Hit that subscribe button for more airline industry secrets that explain the weird economics behind modern aviation.